What's up, everybody? Eddie Barco here with the Nebula Music Podcast, and today I'm excited to be speaking with Bianca Richardson. Now, Bianca is an amazingly talented drummer from Instagram who's constantly getting followers every day. But the one thing that really stands out to me is that she's a risk taker, and I mean a super risk taker. It's this kind of mentality that scored her a gig with the legendary Marcus Miller literally overnight. And I mean it literally overnight. She goes from being a student to playing to over 20,000 people immediately. And so I knew that I had to figure out her thought process and what motivates her to go after these huge goals. So I don't want to waste any more time. Let's dive right in. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I am very excited to have here with me Bianca Richardson. Dude, how are you?
I'm good. What's up? What's up?
Look at you. You're so excited. You're just like, hey, what's up? That's what I like. I like that you're so hyped about so much stuff. Like, you are probably one of the coolest drummers that I am following right now. If you guys haven't heard of who Bianca is, she is a phenomenal drummer. I got a chance to meet you at NAMM earlier this year, and you've got tons of chops. You're just really, really good. But as I always say, I don't want to waste time of me talking about you. I would much rather you talk about yourself. So why don't you go ahead and catch us up? Let us know a little bit about maybe like where you're from, how you got started playing, and all that stuff.
Cool. Well, actually, I want to kind of point out that right now I'm at a gas station in the random corner in LA because I was on my way going to the rehearsal spot. And then I was like, oh, shoot, I need to find like a quiet spot. So I just randomly parked in the corner.
See, that's the life of a busy musician right there. You know, you get asked to do an interview and you're so busy playing with so many people that you're just like, I got to pull over for a quick 30 minutes and just do this interview real quick and then go do my awesome fucking job. So kudos to you.
Yeah. So, well, my name is Bianca Richardson, and I started off playing when I was in middle school doing the drum line. But actually, this is kind of a funny story too. I tell this story to everyone. Actually, at first, when I was trying to try out for the drum line, I had a little dilemma with the band teacher. I remember when I approached him and I'm saying I'm interested in being part of the drum line. He tried everything to convince me not to be part of the drum line.
Really?
So at first, it was weird. He offered me to play. He first said I need to learn an instrument before I be part of the percussion line, and I was like, well. Isn't the drums, isn't that an instrument too? What the heck? So, anyways, I was young. I didn't know. So whatever. So then, he put me on flute.
Really?
I hate flute. What is that? No. It sounds pretty, but I didn't want to play that. So then, I got bold and I told him, I said, hey, I want to be part of the drum line. Then he said that, and at the time I didn't think it was a big thing. I was young. I was 12. He said it's not ladylike to do the drum line.
Whoa.
And I took it. It was kind of half and half because I was young. I kind of took it lightly, but then I felt like something was wrong with that statement. So then I told my parents about it, that evening going home. And then, of course, my mom, she was furious, but my dad, he is over the top, he doesn't play. So
yay, mom and dad.
Yes, yeah. So then, we brought up the situation to the principal, and we took it there because now I'm starting to realize of what he said. That statement is very sexist. Looking back on it,
right.
So. Long story short, I don't know. I wasn't in the office at the time because I guess it's grown folks conversation, but they handled the situation. And then soon enough, I, became part of the drum line. But the funny thing is now with the drum instructor, it was me and my buddy Juan. Like I don't know why, but they give us so much crap. Like when we got part of the drum line, he put me on fourth base. And then Juan, my friend, he's like an amazing drummer now. Today, he's like killing it. He put him on third base. And then I'm like, that wasn't like the idea instrument I wanted to play, being, part of drumline. But I did it anyways because I just wanted to play drums. I just wanted to play. So then I don't know, like, realizing, I'm kind of jumping ahead now, like realizing, like, dealing with bass drum for 2 years, middle school is about like, it's like 2 years, 7th, 8th grade, dealing with that, like over time, like you're building your wrist, because the bass drum, it doesn't really have rebound. Right. And like the exercises and the warm-ups that we did, like we did rolls on the bass drums and we did like actual rudiments. And doing that for 2 years straight, like I didn't realize, but I was building my strength. I was like conditioning myself for like the big stuff that I did in high school. So, yeah, I know like those 2 years I dealt with playing bass drum. I just kind of sucked it up. But I mean, what I'm getting to is like sometimes like you do have to just do it and struggle in the beginnings. Before you become successful. I mean, that's just how it is in all the entertainment business. Right. Like not just musicians, it's like dancers, singers, actors. Like it's not just like you go and you get the job. You kind of have to fail for a little bit or even not get the idea position you want, So when I got to high school, like I said, I didn't realize like my hands were like flying, like I was doing like I'm not cocky or anything, but I was like my hands were pretty fast, like I was killing it.
You're just being honest. You were really, really fast.
Yeah. So that year, it's I don't know. I guess it's like this high school thing. Like usually to get the upper battery is like seniors and juniors. So the singer that was supposed to get tenors, I don't know, tenors like the quads, he wanted to play football his senior year. So that position was open, and like coming in, none of the like incoming freshmen were like, I guess in a way prepared to play that instrument. Right. But since I had a sense of like, I knew all my rudiments, I was kind of like up to par for that instrument. Like I got the quads like my freshman year. So, and that's pretty rare, because I guess it's just, I don't know, this insane rule, like the upper battery is only for like seniors and juniors. Like for a freshman to get like, quads or snare, like that means like you're killing it,
Well, yeah, it's almost like coming in as a freshman and then becoming almost like team captain of the soccer team. When you haven't even been there for a year, and you essentially went from being a nobody and then getting jumped straight into the top or highest position in the tenors. And by the way, if anyone out there isn't a drummer or maybe is not that much aware of like drumline, the quads or the tenors are the set of how many drums are there in that set, like the ones that are really long that you kind of wear on your waist. It's not the snare drum and it's not the bass drum, but it's the multiple drums that people wear, and those are incredibly hard to play, probably. And I'm not sure, you can correct me because you'd be more of an expert than me, but I imagine they're probably the hardest ones to play in the drumline, because snare drum is hard, but I mean it's just one drum as opposed to, various drums.
Yeah. Now the thing is when I came to high school, that wasn't my desire to play that. I wanted to play snare, but I mean.
Why'd you want to play snare?
I don't know, because it looked cool.
Honestly, I feel like that's why everybody else wants to do it. They have all the flashy tricks.
Yeah. But then I realized like, okay, what you said was about the difficulty level playing the quads. Like, basically, when it like warm ups, the snare, like you're playing on one surface, but when you're playing the quads, you're playing the same thing as the snare most of the time for warm ups. you're playing the same thing, but you have to split and like incorporate that, rhythm on all the drums. So it could be a bit tough of, remembering where, what hit goes on each drum and things like that.
Right.
So, and also it's a different technique too. You have to learn how to do scrapes. Scrapes are, I think that's the term. I think that's what I call them. Scrape. Okay. Think about
your own term. I like that.
Yeah. So right, left. You do that on, on one surface. That's just a roll. So a scrape is hitting basically, 2 notes with one hand, but on a different drum. So
right.
if you're doing right, you're going from one drum to the next drum. I wish I could show you, but I can't because it's audio. So,
well, yeah, I know. Like the way I think the way to describe it is, obviously drummers can probably visualize this a little bit better. If you were to try to tap on a table or a surface, right, and do 2 hits on each hand, like right, left, and then maybe grab a glass of water, right, and then put that maybe on another surface right next to the table, and you have to try and land both your right hits, one on the table and one on that glass, one right after the other, like that. That's basically what you're describing, is 2 separate surfaces that are basically next to each other, but they're still separate, and you have to land both hits pretty well. Yeah.
And it's not like a technique that you get overnight. Like you'll start to understand it once you're told about it, but you each note has to be precise, because the second note will start to sound a little bit drowned out. Like it's like you're accenting the second note. I mean, you're accenting the first note, and then the second note is like a ghost note. It shouldn't be like that. Every note has to be, the same velocity. So, right. I mean, that's something I had to like learn being part of doing the tenors. Cause that's like a huge thing. So, yeah.
I'm curious for you, coming from bass drum, right? And then going straight to tenors. Obviously it's very different, but you had a bit of power already going in, but getting into the quads and realizing that technique to hit 2 surfaces is basically something brand new in a way. Mm-hmm. Was that intimidating for you at all? Like at first, like when you first went on there, because you basically jumped to the front, right? Like you jumped to the main position, and then to be introduced to a technique that's rather foreign to you and very difficult. How did you handle that? Did you maybe like go home and just start practicing that every day after school? How did you process that?
Yo, I didn't talk to nobody. I just like shut like out from the world, and I practiced that pattern like a lot. First of all, is because the team captain at the time, I went to Gar High School. I don't know if you heard of that, or I don't know. But anyways, I went to Gar in Cerritos, and our team captain, he was cool, but he wanted things right. So in a way, he had no sympathy. So I would just, I just sucked it up and I did my job. And like I would practice on my bed, because at the time I didn't have a tenor practice pad. And so I would pretend like I had, the quads, and I would try to position them right or whatever. Or I'll even get books, and like I'll set it up as like the same position as the quads. Right. And I'll just practice that right, left, And then there's even like a thing where when you're doing right, left, but then you have to cross your hands over. So your right hand is over to the left side and your left hand is over to the right side. So it's just a cool visual effect. But that's something I did have to practice too, is like crossovers. And it's the same thing like with the scrapes, but you're crossing your hands over. So I mean, it was a lot to kind of deal with my freshman year, but I mean, repetition is definitely key. And if you want to learn something, you just got to get it. You got to just do it. You have to have hands-on training, because watching stuff on, I don't know, no, YouTube wasn't really big at the time, but I know like
it was not. No, it wasn't.
No. So like, I mean, don't get me wrong, watching videos and watching people and having a mentor, I definitely like advise that, but you have to like practice yourself and do it on your own time, because it's like drumming is muscle memory. It really is. So,
I'd like to kind of pick at what you said because it's so true. It's so easy to, get convinced that if you were to reach out or if you were to get that one mentor, like that one famous musician or that one, I don't know, insert name here.
I'm ready.
What would you tell someone that was trying to find a mentor to help them go to the next level?
If anyone is interested, getting the mentor, definitely get someone that is active. Yes, I agree with getting someone that has accreditation and history, but if they're not active today, then, to me, that kind of says something, because time is changing. And if that person or if that mentor isn't really, playing now, you're going to be learning old stuff. The old stuff is good, but time is always changing. So I definitely advise to get somebody, yes, that's older, that worked in the old, in the olden days, but make sure they're currently working today. They're still gigging, because then they can give you knowledge with both all type of eras,
Do you have a mentor?
Yeah. Okay. So what you were saying, who would somebody who I would love to study with was, if Chris Coleman, if you ever listen to this podcast, I want to study. I want to study with you, man. Oh man,
he's a monster, guys. Chris Coleman is on another level of drumming. He's unbelievable.
Yeah. So he's kind of like my mentor on YouTube. but no, I had so MI recently hired Gordon Campbell. I don't know if you heard of him.
I have. Is MI your school?
Yes, Musicians Institute. I just graduated in June. Woo woo!
Nice, congratulations.
Yep. Yeah. So, so I had the chance of studying with Gordon Campbell about 6 months, and once I heard he was coming and starting to teach at the school, I was like, I want to say the other drum teacher name, but I was like, bye. Yeah. Gordon Campbell, the same thing. He's worked with Earth, Wind, and Fire. Countless of people. I can't even I think Layla Hathaway, and she's current, and that's the thing of what I'm saying, Earth, Wind, and Fire is an old type, old band, older generation band. Layla Hathaway, she's doing stuff today, and he's currently doing a lot of sessions, he's working today, and he's very notable, he's been posted on Modern Drummer. He has a bunch of, YouTube videos. So it was really cool to study with him and be personal with him and ask him all the questions, because I can talk. So I wanted to, take advantage and, pick his brain. And
so what did you ask him? What was some of the things that you wanted to know? Because he is a classic. He's been around for a while. Yes. And he has, like you said, he's definitely been around and is very experienced, but he's still very current. He's always playing. He's always doing something. I'm always seeing him on some video or on some tour or something. So he's around.
Yes. So I know, at the time, I was preparing because it was the last months of being at MI. So I was preparing for my jury. So I'll ask him because I was learning Snarky Puppy songs, Flood, and Skate You. So I would bring the song to him and I would tell him hey, I didn't say it like this, but hey, I just want you to, listen to me. I'm going to play the song. And then after I'm done, give me your input, because you can learn a song, but in this case, I was preparing for my recital. So I want to sound authentic as possible.
Right.
I feel like he's the best person at MI that can deliver, good advice.
Right.
So, that was one thing we definitely worked on is, all my jury songs, and my jury set, arranged from songs from Snarky Puppy. I did my own arrangement of Giant Steps.
Oh man, nice.
Yeah,
that's a classic
really cool.
jury song, Giant Steps. It allows you to really spread out and just show your chops.
Yeah. And then I did a gospel tune, and that was really, really cool because I got to arrange harmonies with the singers and the background vocals, and I got to arrange a little bit, like everything in each song. Like I had like I didn't do the song as is, I kind of like rearranged it a bit.
Is that what you're supposed to do in your juries? Are you supposed to, well, I'm curious, are you supposed to basically take songs and basically pre-existing work and kind of mix it up a little bit, still keeping it rather the same, but adding your own flavor to it?
Well, not necessarily. You can do the song as is, but I just wanted to, go out with a bang. So I kind of
as you should. And were you playing with a band, or was it you playing the backing tracks and then maybe one song you had like singers?
No, I had a band. It was funny, like when people when they saw me doing sound check, like they looked like, "Dang, you got like 20 people on your stage." Like
you went all out. That's good.
I really did. I had horns, I had an organist, I had keys, I had auxiliary keys. I can't even think. I had like 3 guitarists. I mean, obviously they switched off on, different songs.
Damn, you had a tour manager, you had stage hands, you had it all. Yep. You had the tour bus outside just in case.
Yep, I had a drum tech. Shoot.
Dude.
I was kidding.
And did you have to arrange every single part too? Like for all the instrumentalists?
So I had to, this is a program called Sibelius, and you have to chart out the charts.
Right.
And then, there was one song I arranged, and I totally did it myself. But other than that, like, I could, you can get the charts online.
Right.
And then, but you have to still input that, because the charts, you're just getting the chords from online, but you still have to like, figure out the notes and things like that. So, I mean, that definitely took me time. And it was really cool to have, Gordon at the time, because that's when I was beginning to get my stuff together.
So I guess I'm curious. I wanted to ask about the charts or the arrangement, because there's this common misconception that all drummers want to do is just play fast and hit cymbals and just play hard. But in reality, what I've come to learn is that a lot of the professional drummers, a lot of the well-known people are just as skilled and just as knowledgeable in other instruments. They're just drummers. And so you wouldn't imagine, like, there's tons of drummers that have come that have been phenomenal pianists, and that can write music. But there's just this common misconception that drummers just don't know that stuff. That I'm not saying that they think we're stupid. It's just more like they just play drums. That's all they do.
Yeah, that misconception that's bull. No, no, like drummers, we know. The reason why I think drummers, we're the smartest instrumentalists.
I mean, we're both drummers, so let's agree with each other. We are phenomenal. I mean, we're the timekeepers, we're the feel keepers, and you're absolutely right.
Not only we're keeping time, but I would say, and I'm speaking for all drummers, we're listening to everything. Think about it. This is how, when I'm in a jam session, how I don't think of what I can play. I think of what's happening around me. So I'll listen for a bit. I'll look around. It's weird. I'll look at their hands, like each instrumental hand. And all this is going on within, a couple seconds before, I figure out what I want to groove or what I want to do. So I'll check out the bass and see what he's doing, what his groove. And of course, like, the bass has to lock with the kick. But also, I don't hear this talked about a lot, but even listen with the guitarist. Since the guitarist is more, the timbre is more of a higher pitched sound, I use that riff or that thing, what he's doing. I try to imitate that. Not every part, but like some of the accents that the guitarist is doing, I try to put that on the hi-hat. And
interesting.
And just to lock in the groove more, to give the guitarist to lock in what you're doing. And of course, like the snare, I mean, whatever it is, it got to be on 2 and 4, because that's something like, our bodies need to, fall back on. But I mean, the 2 and 4 is there, but you even can add more, as the song is progressing, add the ghost notes and stuff, but only do it when it's, when it's necessary.
Right.
Like if there's more syncopated things happening, like I mean, a jam session, like they said, less is more. It really is. That is the absolute truth. But in a jam session, like, you trying to go hard because you with your buddies, you with, your friends or whatever. So you trying to, like, have fun. And that's nothing wrong with that, chopping up a little bit.
So let me ask you this. When you're playing a gig, right? So jam sessions are so much fun for musicians. It's our way of just hanging out and getting to know each other musically. But when you're hired for a gig and you're playing a show, how much of, obviously, like you mentioned, we're kind of holding the beat and we're making sure that the feel, feels right. But do you use that same technique when you're playing a gig? Do you watch what the guitarist and maybe what the singer or keys are doing and maybe add little things here and there to the groove without necessarily going hard, but, basically doing your job and adding little things? Is that something that you do during a gig?
Okay. This is very good. Okay. No, because I don't think this is talked about enough either. Now, when you're playing like trap music and, music that's already produced that doesn't have drums in it, think about it. People listen to people listen to the song in the car, how it is. But when people pay for a ticket, for a live show, they want the experience. So you have to kind of think out the box. You have to make that, the music sound live. So what does that mean? You have to listen to the song, know the vocals. A lot of the drummers, where they get the, I don't know if you watch, like Styx Taylor, he toured with like Justin Bieber.
Oh yeah, of course.
And I think he's a good representation of like accenting the hits with the vocal.
You're so right. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, he'll do little things with like the splash or like something like that, just to outline an important vocal line or something. So, you can apply that technique, what I said about with jam sessions, but of course, like at like good moments, at the right moments. And you feel like if this line is like a delivery line of like in what is being said in the vocal, then hit it. Like, and of course, like if the MD doesn't like that, then don't do it. But no one says, if no one says anything, hey, just do it. Cause like, you gotta make the music come to life. You cannot sound like the same how it is in the car. But unless, the MD wants it like that, then I guess you got to do it like that. It doesn't matter. You're getting paid. So
my takeaway from you, or at least my takeaway from what you're saying, is essentially that as a drummer, you're still a musician, right? First and foremost. And even though our main job is to keep the beat, there's definitely lots that we can do to add to the show. And that's the one thing that I love to talk to my fellow drummers and students too, is that, you don't have to be the best drummer to make it, right? So that's something that everybody knows. But B, people are paying to go see a show, and everything is subjective, obviously. Sometimes there are certain artists that are very picky and want everything super planned, which is fine. But the reality is, if you have the freedom or some slight freedom to express yourself in a show, I think that's also part of your job that some musicians rarely have time to experiment with. And I think it's something that I appreciate about what you do, is that when you're up there, you look like you're having fun. Like you're making smiley faces, you're moving with the drums, you're throwing your hands up in the air, you're still keeping the beat, and your beat is solid, but it just looks like you're having fun. And the audience in turns is having fun with you. Energy is something that needs to be learned too. Exactly. Man. Showmanship. And where did you learn your showmanship? Is it something that was just natural to you, or did you kind of figure it out as you went along?
I don't know. I mean, it's just, if you enjoy music, like, simply just express it, I mean, I guess in a way you can practice it, but then I feel like practicing that is kind of weird because maybe it becomes fake. True. Yeah. So, but I also, so another thing is, I always think, even if I don't like the song, if it's like the worst song in the set list, I mean, I still try to like, smile or like, move just so I can still entertain, because remember, music isn't really about, like, when you're doing a pop gig, it's not about you. It's about the person that paid to see you. So you got to make, even if the show like is like for the artist, you're still part of that act. So there's gonna be people looking at you. So you got to entertain no matter what, because because you never know, like that 1 second when you're, just looking all lame on stage, that one person in the audience can be staring at you, and then in a way, like that can be a downer, So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, for that, I don't know if I've really learned it. I think it's just a thing that, it grows over time as you start playing, as you start getting, you have to play and get comfortable being on stage. And, yeah, there's always, I don't think I don't think there's ever a point you will absolutely feel comfortable being on stage, because, that's just, I mean, I don't know, I always get nervous when I play, when the show is about to start. Like, when it's like the first or the last 10 seconds, right when the show is about to start, I'm like, oh my God, like, oh, I'm going crazy in my head. But
yeah.
I mean, once it's on, it's on. It's, you got to just give it your all. You got to go and you got to entertain.
So it seems like you're always ready to go, but you're aware that, obviously sometimes being on stage, maybe make you nervous. So I'm curious, is there a gig that you recently played that you were just like super intimidated, like with?
Oh God.
I'm curious, and I'm curious how you handled it. I'm curious how you got through it, because honestly, as musicians, we've all been there. The goal is to hopefully make it to the top one day. And that means every so often you kind of make a hurdle. You jump to a bigger gig and a bigger gig and a bigger stadium and a bigger, stage. And so I'm always curious how musicians handle that. How they handle, stepping out to that big gig and being like, oh my God, here we go. Let's see how it turns out. So I'm curious about that experience for you.
Okay. So if anyone that's listening to this podcast, like, know that it's okay to feel uncomfortable, because that's just a confirmation of you growing. Because if you're comfortable, that means that you're gonna, if you're comfortable and you feel comfortable for quite a while doing the same thing, then you're not growing. And you have to, it's kind of like working out. When you when you're breaking when you work out, your muscle actually rips, and then over time the muscle it heals, but it gets bigger. So I kind of think it's weird, that's a weird strategy, but I kind of think of that like when you're being in uncomfortable situations, you're kind of breaking through this layer, and then after when you're breaking through that layer, like over time you hop over that obstacle and you learn from that experience of how to handle that huge gig, and that just keeps, happening by, when the gigs keep getting bigger and bigger. So that's why I say I feel like every gig that I do, or to me now, since I've been out of school, the gigs are getting bigger and bigger, and I'm really grateful for that. So I want to point out that 2 weeks, this will be like the best moment of my life, man. Like, so 2 weeks before I graduated, I had the chance to play at the Hollywood Bowl with Marcus Miller. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, it's crazy. And now that is, I mean, going from like LA, club gigs or the bar gigs or whatever, to that is like, it's crazy. So that's
a giant step right there. A humongous giant step.
Yeah. And okay. So I was nervous the whole, practicing for it and, prepping for it, whatever. But it's always the last couple seconds right before the show. And then it's funny, like the Hollywood Bowl, the bowl spins. So we're setting up from behind the stage on the other side of the bowl, or the other side of the stage. Like, it didn't really, I knew that I was about to play in like a couple minutes, but it didn't really hit me until the bowl starts to spin and you start hearing the crowd. And I was like, oh my God, this is real. It's about to happen. It's real. Like, and then when you see the stage and you see the crowd, it's unbelievable, man. Like, it's like, I don't know. It was just super crazy to hear like those screams, those endless screams. And 22,000 people were there that night.
Wow.
And I was like, oh man, I'm definitely not used to this. Like, man. Yeah, like, and then it was for the Playboy Jazz Festival. And the lineup was crazy that night. So it was, a blessing to meet, all the people that played that night backstage, and they kind of see me more as a musician, as a fan person, like instead of going to the gigs, now I'm backstage so I can talk to them personally. So that was a very cool thing.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So back to the gig, like, the 10 seconds before when the bowl was spinning, I was just going crazy in my mind. I was like, oh Lord, like it's about to happen. But I mean,
and it happened.
Once Marcus started the bass line for the first song, I was just like, Lord, take the wheel.
Well, how did you get that gig? I'm very curious.
Okay, so it was kind of simple. Marcus came to MI for a clinic. I of course I knew who Marcus was. Actually, I bought a couple DVDs because I don't know how to play bass, but I wanted to learn. But I wanted to study him, so it's just kind of cool to see him at the clinic.
And for those of you guys who don't know who Marcus Miller is, he's a phenomenal bassist. He's been around for a while, but this guy can slap for days.
Yeah, and he's another legend, like that. Did
legend,
stuff in
exactly.
That did stuff in the olden days, and he's currently working today. So yeah, he's the guy. So he came to the gig. I mean, he came to do a clinic at MI, and I remember standing in line, and I was looking at him like set up or whatever. It's so weird. I was like, I'm gonna jam with him today. I said that to myself, and that was it. So then, we're sitting down, we're going in the concert hall, whatever. And he originally invited a student drummer and a student keyboardist to jam with him, and I was recommended. The dean of the school recommended these two people to jam with him. So then, as the jam go on, I think he stops talking or something, or he stops playing, and he starts talking about giving advice or whatever. And then he asks like, "Hey, does anyone else who wants to play drums wants to switch out the drummer?" I don't know why he did that, but he wanted to switch out. So then, no one raised their hand. It was weird. Like, there was a lot of drummers there that day, but no one raised their hand. And then I looked around, and I even waited a couple seconds too, because I wanted to do it. So then I just raised my hand. I was just like, I'll jam with you. It was so weird. Yeah, it's just super simple. And then and I remember I saw my friend that plays keys, Brittany Go. She's an amazing keyboardist, so people definitely go follow her. So I looked at her, and I was like, yo, you got to come play with me, or something like that. I told her to come up with me. So then, so just to make me feel more comfortable, I don't know. So, me and my friend, we went and we jammed with Marcus, and then it was a 6/8 tune that he started playing. And it was, for some reason, it started to morph into Stevie Wonder's song "Higher Ground." So it was
nice.
Yeah, it was perfect, because I was like, "Shoot, I know this tune. Let's go." Yeah. So we switched off solos, and it was. I think the jam lasted at least. It's on YouTube too. It was like about 6 to 8 minutes. It's pretty long, but I mean, when you're jamming with Marcus, you don't want to end. That's definitely, like, I didn't want it to end,
Yeah.
So at the end of the clinic, he told us to meet him back in the green room. So before we can even ask a picture with him, he was like, "Hey, I want to get a picture with you guys." And I was like, in my head, like, what the heck? Like, this is cool.
Marcus Miller asked for your picture? That's dope.
Yeah, it's super, super cool. And then after that, he asked for a card, like a contact, and that the rest was history.
Did he call you like pretty much right away?
He called me, I think, about 1 to 2 weeks later to do, not call me, he messaged me on Facebook to do the Hollywood Bowl gig with him. Wow. And I'm like, you know what? I put my phone on airplane mode too, so he won't see that I read it. Because I wasn't for sure if I wanted to do it because, like I said, I was preparing for my jury and I was graduating. Really? Yeah, but I was like, I'm stupid if I don't take this gig. So, yeah, I just did it, and I worked hard. I didn't sleep, and how much time did you have to prepare? I mean, I overdid it. I really did. Is that even a thing though? And like, if you're gonna play at the Hollywood Bowl with Marcus Miller, like, is over preparing really a thing? I feel like you couldn't possibly prepare enough. And I don't mean that in a way because you're not talented enough. I think and this is just my personal opinion. When you do those gigantic leaps, it definitely helps to over prepare, especially with your confidence. Yeah. See, that's the thing. I wanted to know the songs that he gave. Like I wanted to know them, like front to back, like each part, like everything. I wanted to know, so I won't have to like think like, oh, is there a, hit on this chorus? There's a, breakdown. Like, I don't want to think that. I want to know it like through the song throughout. So, I mean, that's all I did. I was bumping Marcus music, going home, going to the coffee shop, like going everywhere, like, and it wasn't that, and we had one rehearsal the day before. Whoa. Are you serious? Yeah. So yeah, it was that moment in my life was no joke. You know what though? That's pro level right there though. That's what most people don't realize. And you're welcome. I mean, the reality is what a lot of musicians that aren't necessarily working, but want to start working don't realize is a lot of the time you don't have time to rehearse. A lot of the times it's like, let's meet up the day before. Let's meet up maybe 2 days before, maybe a week before. But the reality is you aren't practicing 8 hours a day for an entire month for the show. Usually they send you the material, you listen to it, you show up, maybe practice a set once or twice, and then they're like, all right, good. Because in their mind, Marcus Miller in this case, you're a professional. And so you show up prepared and ready to go. If you show up to a rehearsal not knowing anything, then it's like, why are you even here? And obviously, I think I'm saying things that most people know, but it's just to kind of reaffirm that that's exactly how it is. If you think it's any different, you're in for a very rude awakening. Yeah, and you have to always just be like sharp. You keep your mind sharp, and you got to just be on top of things. And you have to represent yourself in the best way. And knowing that the fact that at that time, like, I had one rehearsal, I know on my downtime I had to like prepare the songs, prepare myself for a huge crowd. And because when you on stage, it's like you may think you know the songs, but when you got all this like stuff going on, like the crowd, I don't know, all that takes into part to make you nervous. And then when you get nervous, I don't know, for some reason you start forgetting things. So as for me, it's just human nature. So I wanted to eliminate that. I wanted to be on stage, and the only thing I wanted to worry about is, entertaining the people. So, yeah. And how was it rehearsing with Marcus Miller? Was he, because I've actually never met him before, so I'm curious, is he nitpicky? Does he like know his songs back to back? Really? No, because like this is my assumption, like, yeah, he tells me the structure, he tells me what he wants, but I think there's a sense of trust that day when I rehearsed with everyone. And I was just like, oh my God, like, he not really saying nothing to me. He said something if I played the pattern wrong, or, if I went in early to a chorus, or, I did a drum fill. Was he chill about it though? Was he like, hey, stop that? Yeah. Or was he more like, hey, maybe not do it this way? Yeah, like that. because I mean, in a way, I'm really glad he wasn't too nitpicky because first of all, I like yeah, he's Marcus Miller, but I don't know him personally like that. So I'm really glad that he was I mean, he was nice, he was cool because knowing that the gig was the the day after, I don't think that would have been a good choice for him to be like that.
True.
Because I mean that would make me nervous and crazy in my head and and, yeah. So I'm glad that he set a good tone with everybody. He's not too chill as in like the as like if the rehearsals were loose, the rehearsal like we're rehearsing, but he I don't know, like, because one thing I don't like is when I go to rehearsals and like the artists like they'd stop in the middle of the song and say just to say one little thing like let us play, let us then say your comments afterwards, because I feel like that takes up more time when you stop it and going and stop it and going. Like, I don't know. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, that's the way you work. And obviously that's why your work with Marcus Miller works so well. So I'm more curious because I love the Hollywood Bowl. The Hollywood Bowl is, in my opinion, one of the highlights of living in LA. So how was it like, when you first got there with all your gear and stuff? Like, were there some really cool people that you got a chance to meet? Some people that maybe, that you've always looked up to that were walking around backstage, maybe saying hi to each other?
Okay. First of all, about the gear, like, I didn't have to bring crap. Like, I only brought my cymbals.
Oh, dude, that's professional status right there. When they provide everything, you're just like, oh, I made it. I'm here. I don't have to log my, 500-pound drum set across the city.
Yeah. Okay. So, there was, I mean, of course, okay. Jacob Collier I don't know if you heard of him.
Well, of course I have. Who hasn't?
Okay. Yeah. I met him there and backstage, and it was really cool to talk to him and to ask him his thought process on music and stuff. Half of the stuff I didn't know what he was saying, but
did he blow your mind?
Yeah, that dude, he is like 21 and killing it. Like,
guys, honestly, Jacob Collier, like, if you guys don't know who he is, and I always like to introduce people that we talk about just in case. Yeah. He's this guy. I don't remember if he got started on YouTube or not, but I know he has tons of cool stuff on YouTube, but he's a genius, like just an insane genius. Yeah. A musical genius. And he's younger than both me and you, I think. And he can play everything really, really well. He's just insane. When you think of a musical genius, he's that.
I can't stand him. It gets on my nerves.
Oh God.
Yeah, but that's one of the artists that I met. I met a couple producers. One highlight though, and it's crazy, is that, and I feel bad. So I don't know if you heard of Corinne Bailey Rae. I
think I have. I'm not sure.
Well, she's more of a mainstream singer, but she sung that night. And then she's a British singer. And her husband came up to me and say like, "Hey, my wife wants to speak to you, Corinne." And then for some reason the name didn't dawn to me, so I was just like, "Okay, let me finish packing up and whatever, and then I'll get to her." And I felt bad, but then I started talking to Jacob again, and I totally forgot of what he said. And then next thing you know, I hear like a whole bunch of people say, like in the background saying, "Hey, have you guys seen Bianca the drummer? You guys seen Bianca?" And I'm like, what's happening? I'm like, I'm right here. And I looked, and it was her and her whole entourage and her crew looking for me. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, what the heck? And then she was just congratulating me and telling me that she really loved my playing that night. And then she grabbed like all my info, like my email, my phone number, just every contact. And I was just like in shock to not even ask for a picture. Like,
wow.
Like, yeah, I mean, if you look her up, she's definitely known. And the last thing I remember in our conversation, and she's like, definitely, you're going to be working soon. Like, definitely expect a call. So,
wow.
Yeah. So if that's crazy to hear that from her, you know, from actual artists. That's like it's rare for artists to go to a musician and like thank them for their work. I mean, maybe because I'm not working with her, you know,
Right.
Like she had no idea who I was, and I mean until she heard me play. But she actually like went out of her way, got like her crew was looking like literally looking for me, and that's just very humbling because like I never had that before. Like it was weird. It was so weird, but super cool at the same time. Like,
you know, there's so many great things happening to you, and I think one of the common themes of what I've seen one of the common themes that I've come to notice in our conversation is you, for whatever reason, you're very accepting to opportunities. I say it because even though it sounds cliche, you know, to be like open-minded and accept a lot of the things, you know, most people aren't very comfortable with that. I go back to the Marcus Miller Jam, you know, when almost nobody raised their hand and you waited for a second, but you definitely took it upon yourself to go after it. And I'm even more fascinated by the fact that you told yourself that you were going to do it. There's so many things we could talk about in that sense of like the law of attraction and all these things. But at least the one important takeaway from your character and who you are and where you're going with music is I think you give a great example of what it looks like to basically accept opportunities and go after them and be comfortable enough to accept them. Because another thing that you mentioned is that you're very real. You know, you get nervous just like everybody else, just like someone else that's not in LA that's looking to potentially get gigs like yours is. I think it's important to note that you still get nervous, but the biggest thing is that you would much rather go after it and fail than not go after it at all. Is that right in assuming that? Am I right in assuming that you would much rather go after something and then maybe not get it, but at least you know that you fucking tried?
I'll leave off with this and just say, like, you just have to be open. You never know if that opportunity is for you or if it isn't. Or you never know if somebody was there and then they can possibly give you a call for another gig in the future. So you just have to just take it and just at least try, because that's another thing, like being uncomfortable, that it's a good thing. You know, that's just, you know, you're breaking through those barriers to grow. So even okay, there's this thing what I do agree with it too. If you absolutely feel that you know a drummer that's better suited for the gig, then, you know, do that artist justice. But if you feel like you can handle it, do it.
How true. Yeah. I mean, honestly, a lot of us say the same thing because it's true. And I want to make sure that I nail it into to people's minds to understand that it doesn't matter at the end of the day where someone is. If you think that someone's better, blah, 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 insert the reason here. You know yourself if you can handle something and if you want something bad enough. And the reality is it's scary to go after those big things, just like going to go play the Hollywood Bowl. Like, it's insane to think about that. All the fears sit in. Like, what if I mess up? What if I drop a stick? What if I can't play the song? So many excuses come into our brains, and it is our job. It isn't anybody else's job, but it's your own job to remind yourself that you're good enough to do it and ignore all that negativity and just go after it. And because the reality is, and we'll get ready to wrap it up because I know you got to go and you got to go work and stuff. But the reality is you can spend all your time being negative, and the only thing that's going to guarantee is that you'll never make it. You'll never do anything, and you will for sure fail. But if you at least give yourself that chance to believe in yourself, even though, there is a possibility that you will fail, but that also means you open the possibility to succeed as well. And that 50-50 chance is way better than a 100% negative chance. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. That was spot on. Like, seriously.
Well, I mean, I love your lifestyle, man. And I love what you stand for because you're so cool. You're very humble, you're down to earth, and you're fun to talk to. But I just love how you're willing to accept things, but that you're so real about it. You know, you're not shy to admit that you're scared and that you're maybe intimidated by certain things. But the main core of it all is that you're willing to give it a shot. You're willing to go all in regardless of the outcome. And I think that's what's making you successful. And I'm very excited to see you do that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah. Maybe I think this is another thing too. Like, I think in reality, you're probably going to have, more failures than, you succeeding. But once you succeed, it's going to overwrite all the failures. It's going to be like, wow, like all those moments that I didn't get the audition, all those moments that, just that things that didn't work out. It's gonna, once you're there at the moment, you're gonna be like, yeah, it was definitely worth it, because you gotta learn. You gotta go through those moments to learn about yourself, to learn like, oh, okay, I didn't get this audition because, or even you can take that moment when you didn't make the audition, study the reason why you didn't get it. And now, I mean, sometimes it can be some silly reason, like, oh, maybe you didn't, have the right hairstyle, the right look. That, I don't know, just throw that, that reason is dumb. Like, I mean, I don't know. Looks do take, when it comes to mainstream gigs, I do think there is some kind of degree of you need a look. But I think you shouldn't really take that to heart, because that's kind of depressing. Don't do that.
Well, you know what? I'm going to add on to what you said. I think, in my opinion, and especially when you've been around the music industry for a while and just experiencing life in many different ways, you come to experience so many different things, both positive and negative. And it's very easy to get stuck in the mindset of like, well, why didn't I do this? Or why didn't I get that? I deserve that. I deserve all this. And what has helped me, which I think in a way has helped you, is the reality is, and here, I'm just going to say something that's my opinion, but I do think it's true. And so to anyone that's listening and that's trying to do what Bianca's doing, just check this out for a second. I don't think anyone deserves anything. Okay? The reality is, I don't think you're owed anything. But the one cool thing about life is that you do owe it to yourself to pursue your own happiness. And so when bad things do happen, when you don't get that gig, you can think of it as like, oh, maybe there's one gigantic reason or blah, 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 blah. But I think the simple way to see it, which again, maybe Bianca, you disagree or agree, I'm not sure. I think we as humans can pick and choose which experiences define us. And if you didn't get that gig, exactly what you said, maybe analyze it. Maybe see what you liked about it. Because the reality is, maybe you didn't play bad. Maybe you were really happy with what you played. And you can choose to be proud of that or not.
Yeah.
And to punish yourself for it, to be like, oh, damn, I sucked. The reality is, you gotta make sure you learn how to view the positives and always be looking at where you want to be. If you want to be where Bianca is, you got to go where the opportunity is. No questions asked, no excuses. You can't be afraid to take up that mantle and go after it. But the reality is, you also have to be positive about what happens in life. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable. And even if you do get to the top, if you're so used to beating yourself up, guess what? That's never going to stop. You're never going to get to the top and not stop beating yourself up, especially if you've been accustomed to that your whole life. So that's at least my personal advice, adding to what you said, is basically take the opportunities, make sure that you go after them. But also, if something doesn't work out, just think of it positively and move forward at all times.
Yeah. Yeah, you said it.
Well, thank you so much again, Bianca. You're so busy. You're doing amazing things. And honestly, the next time I speak to you, you're going to be this big, gigantic drumming star. And that's what we're going to call your episode.
Oh, man. I want to give a shout out.
Oh, do it.
Real quick, a couple shout outs. So I'm starting a project with my boy, Billy LaBua. He's a crazy bass player. You can follow him on Instagram at Billy LaBua. Check him out. And we're doing a group together called B&B Grooves. Why? Because both of our names start with a B.
Nice.
And I mean, we lock together, and it's just really cool to have a partner to do music with and create with. So it's just started, so we're still figuring out some things, but our stuff is happening fast because when you gel with the person, music just flows. So there's definitely, yeah. So there's definitely going to be some stuff coming out soon. And like, I know everybody says coming out soon, but like us, it's really coming out soon. Like,
and if someone wants to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Simply, I'm mostly active on Instagram. I mean, you can hit me up on my direct message, and my Instagram is at B.RICH drums, DRUM with the Z, not a S.
Nice.
So B Rich Drums.
Has to be with the Z.
It has to be with the Z, no S. That's lame.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to that music. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Bianca. I know that I definitely did. And I learned a lot from her too, because it reminded me of what I went through when I was younger. And the truth is, being afraid of challenges is something that everyone goes through. It doesn't matter how big they are. It doesn't matter how famous they've gotten. Fear is something that's just part of human life. But what separates the people like Bianca who achieve their goals and dreams is training yourself or reminding yourself to not let that fear get to you, because fear is inevitable. I guarantee you that Bianca was probably a little intimidated to play with the legendary Marcus Miller. But the reality is, you have to tell yourself that you'll be good enough. You have to remind yourself that that's what you want and ignore that fear and just go after it. And I guarantee you it's not easy, but take it from Bianca. She's always going after what she wants to do. She's always going after those big challenges. And if you take this example and apply it to your life, I guarantee you that you'll find success. And you never really know when opportunities arise. I mean, I know that I have a hard time really identifying what an opportunity is. But what really defines those that succeed and those that don't is constantly having that mentality that you are willing to do anything to get what you want to do. And when the opportunity arises, even if you are afraid, it won't overpower you. You'll be able to push past it and go after what you want. So I really hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you did, go ahead and press that subscribe button, leave me a nice rating, and definitely don't stop tuning in, because I've got lots of great interviews and lots of great content coming your way.